What is up, Insaners, and welcome to the Game Week. Oh, wait, there is no Game Week stream, there is no deadline stream, there's nothing that sort of happening today. So, welcome to another stream, to probably the final stream of the 2021-22 season. Of course, it's just a catch up stream, so it's not going to be anything stressful. They're not going to be FPL related questions. We'll just hang around, we'll just talk a little bit about what's been happening. How was the last day? I mean, how was game week 38 for you guys? Of course, did you guys end up on the right side of, winning your mini leagues? But first of all, oh my god, what a day. What an amazing day. I mean, the way the season ended, the way the title race ended, the way the relegation battle ended, I think it was well written. I think there were about 39 goals scored across those 10 games. And that's a lot, right? I mean, that's way beyond the usual average of the number of goals that are generally scored. So, I mean, it was crazy the way City won that title. I mean, hats off to them. Congratulations to all those City fans and the people who support Man City. I mean, they have had an amazing season. I don't think so. A lot of people can, argue that they don't deserve to win the league title. It's a very important title, of course, for them. It's a very important title for Pep as well, especially with the way he's, kind of gone out of the Champions League. The team needed a reaction. The way they played the last game, right? I mean, if you saw that last game, they were very, very nervous. I mean, they were really, really nervous. It was so crazy. So there was TV on, and I was watching the City game on the TV. Then I had Hotstar on, where I was watching different games in different windows, and then through another laptop, I was watching some other set of games. So it was absolutely crazy the way it was going. It was very close in terms of the FPL title as well. I mean, if you guys were following the title, between rank 1 and rank 2, by the way, rank 2 was an Indian before the game week started, Suvansh FPL. A huge shout out to him. He's had an amazing season, and a huge congratulations to him. He finished second, so he couldn't beat the number one guy. I think he's from US. I'm forgetting his name, but that guy won. I think he was about 6 or 7 points ahead on the final day. So congratulations to him as well. I mean, it's been a crazy season. I think all of you can kind of agree to it. A a lot draining, I think, than regular seasons could be. But huge congratulations to both of them. I think even if you at least from my perspective, I think if you are satisfied with how you have finished your season, I think you've had a successful season. It doesn't really matter the rank. Uh, Maybe to a lot of people, the top 10K might mean something, the top 100K might mean a different thing altogether, all of that kind of stuff. I myself and I was while I was kind of preparing a little bit about for this particular stream in terms of at least my takeaways, and I think those are on the screen and we'll kind of talk about it. But I think when I was preparing those takeaways, I realized the last two game weeks were my worst game weeks of the entire season. I mean, I started the season so nicely. I mean, I think 40K, 40,000 in the world after game week 1, which in itself is a huge achievement. And I was about 29K, I think, by game week 36. So 37 and 38, I got to 75K and then again to 74, something like that. And those were my lowest ranks of the entire season. So I mean, if you look at it from that perspective, I think it makes sense that I had probably a good season, but I was just not happy, just not satisfied. I was a little disappointed, of course. Just a little bit disappointed. I could have finished a lot better, but nevertheless, amazing season. 100K is still a decent achievement. I'm sure a lot of you might think 100K is absolutely great, but of course we'll go next season. We'll go even bigger. We'll try to do a lot better. And yeah, that's about it from my what I was thinking in terms of how my season was. Of course, we'll talk about takeaways in a little bit time. But do let me know what were your finishes, and what kind of ranks did you kind of finish on? Did you guys win your mini leagues and all that stuff? Hello to you, Abhishek. Welcome to the stream. I mean, yeah, 55 points. I'm not sure. I think that won't be a great score. 5K to 9K. Still, I mean, within 10K, I know there's a huge bubble in the FPL community about this top 10K, and a lot of people believe in that. Of course, you're free to believe in it, or maybe you have your own thoughts about what ranks do really matter to you. But I still feel 9K is still a very, very good rank. And yes, you kind of drop down to about 4K, but I think that's absolutely fine. Brian, thank you so much. I know that it was a lot of content for you guys to delve into. I hope, and I really really hope that I was able to help you guys. My idea is to, and I've kind of spoken about this a lot in my earlier streams and when we were starting. My idea is to not tell you, take a right, take a left, do this, do that. It's absolutely not to do that. It's about to give you as much information as I can to, to make you guys think in terms of what can be your decision, or how to objectify, or how to, spring some logic in a decision, for example, if you play that way, right? There are a lot of FPL managers who don't play that way, who will just do whatever moves they want to do. Maybe they see the top, transferred in players. Maybe they see who scored the maximum points last week and they get that player this week. Of course, FPL kind of doesn't work that way, but that's also, I mean, that's also a fair way to play, right? You cannot really say that FPL has just only one way to play the game. So, I mean, yes, there was a lot. It was a draining season for me, at least, I think, because, of creating content, because of also focusing on my team. Of course, there's been a lot of interaction on Instagram as well. So, there's been a lot happening. And with the double game weeks information coming, changing strategy, changing decisions, thinking about what kind of players to go for, what not to repeat, in terms of mistakes specifically, because I understand that for me specifically, my rank was 16K, I think, last season. This season 75K, so it of course has kind of gotten a little bit worse. But I just wanted to kind of maintain that I don't repeat the same mistakes that I did in my 16K season. Yes, there were a few mistakes as well that I kind of committed, and then we'll talk about that. But I think overall, from an overall perspective, I can feel pretty happy, pretty proud that I was able to evolve myself in terms of my thinking, in terms of how I'm approaching FPL. And in spite of all this, in spite of all the drama, in spite of all the chaos that happened, my interest in the game, it didn't feel like I lost interest. Yes, I did lose patience in a few weeks where maybe I made some rash moves, etc., for my own team. Uh, but I mean, in general, I think my interest was pretty peaked. If you were a very active manager in the community, whether you're watching content, whether you're maybe on Instagram, maybe you're talking to friends about it, maybe you're watching games and all of that stuff, I'm sure you would have been much more involved in the game, right? Rather than somebody who just comes on half an hour before the deadline, sees everything, and then just makes the decision, right? So that way, it was pretty intriguing. I don't know what's gonna happen next season, because next season we have the World Cup, so there'll be 1 month of Premier League, which kind of shifts towards. I'm not sure how the scheduling is supposed to be done there, but I'm assuming from January to the end of the season, I think there'll be a considerable amount of double game weeks to kind of fix that lost time in terms of Premier League football. So I'm assuming and I'm hoping that it is a little bit less chaotic. But at the end of the day, we don't know what's gonna happen. We don't know how next season's gonna be. Of course, there are a few exciting things. There could be some rule changes. There could be some, maybe some extra chips introduced. You never know what's gonna happen there. There'll be a lot of transfers that are gonna happen this window, and of course they will be coming into FPL. What's gonna happen with their prices and all that exciting stuff? Of course, that's gonna be at least a month and a half down the line. But I think we all need a break. We all deserve a break. It's been a taxing season. Um, I mean, yeah, you were pretty close in terms of a comeback. I mean, I personally, I never thought, or at least that was my thinking, that I genuinely believe that City's going to take it. In spite of going 2-0 down, I mean, I'm not at all a City supporter. I'm not wearing my United jersey this in this stream. But of course, I mean, and we had this discussion in the last stream. I wanted City to win because I cannot see Liverpool, winning I mean, they can still win a treble, but a quadruple would have been just too damaging, in terms of how I see football, or how am I gonna live the next 2 to 3 months at least. But yeah, I mean, things I still can't say things were in Liverpool's control. Of course, they also kind of were taken back by that early Wolves goal. I mean, that was a big surprising, because Wolves have generally been that sort of a team who don't score a lot of goals, who don't go on the front foot. Yes, they've shown shades of playing good football, playing aggressive football, playing attacking football, but generally it's not been there. It's been missing this season. So yeah, I mean, they still have a chance. Liverpool still has a chance in the Champions League final. They can still win it. Let me know what you think about that. Let me know what you think about what's going to happen in the Champions League final. I think that Madrid is probably going to win it, but I mean, yeah, I could be totally wrong there. Personally, a good season, Savio. Hello to you as well. It was your first in FPL. That's absolutely great. Just outside top K, aim was 50K. I mean, you were aiming pretty high. So, definitely hats off on that. And 5K is absolutely crazy. I mean, for a first time player, and you take a little bit time to understand how price changes work, how things work, what kind of transfers to do, how do chips work. I mean, there are a lot of variables that are involved, right? So some people take a couple of seasons to kind of just get the groove, get an understanding, and then they start, really coming into their primes. But yeah, I mean, absolutely crazy. 5K is really, really good. Abhishek, thank you so much. I mean, I'm sure you've been a part of the streams across the season, and I hope you've liked them. Do let me know if you have any feedback or anything that you would want to see next season. I mean, absolutely, always up for feedback and a conversation, of course. Would accept outside 100K. I mean, yeah. I mean, so it's a very, I mean, it's a very tricky situation, right? Sometimes when you're playing FPL, your football loyalties kind of come into question because yes, you of course want your team and the team that you support. Maybe you've been doing that for a long time. You want that to kind of come through for you. You want those teams to do well for you. That particular team to do well for you. But then on the other hand, there is a conflict of interest because then suddenly you don't have those players. Maybe you have those players. Maybe you want a different result from the actual footballing space, and that kind of makes things a bit tricky. But yeah, I mean, if I was also given a chance, I would absolutely go crazy and say that I don't really care about FPL if United probably would have won the Premier League. Or I mean, it's a far way off. Of course, I can't even talk about winning the Premier League right now. We first need to finish in the Champions League spot. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I would always give up my ambitions or my objectives in terms of FPL and see United doing really really well if there was a choice between these two. Jamie Pickett, yes, he won the FPL this season. He's from US and of course great season, absolutely crazy. Uh, I mean, it happens once in a lifetime, right? We've not seen people coming again, returning and winning the FPL season again. I mean, there's never been a chance. Of course, how it's very difficult, right? There are about 9.5 million, something around that range. Those many players playing, and it's actually quite difficult because you have to, I mean, there's a lot that has to go in your way and in the correct way, right? I mean, of course you have to start strong, you have to bang, or you have to at least be very very accurate in terms of your captaincy, in terms of your transfers, whether you're taking the right amount of hits, whether those hits are for right players, when are you using your chips. You also have to fall on the right side of variance. There's a huge, I mean, I know a lot of people say that FPL is a skill based game and maybe there's not enough luck involved, but I still feel and I believe that there is still a lot of luck involved when we talk about FPL as a game. You have to, of course, you can put yourself in a position to get lucky, but then at the end of the day, you still have to get lucky, right? So that's that. But yeah, I mean, huge congratulations to both of them. Went Salah to Mane, but didn't think the hit I considered. Kane plus Madison would be worth it in the end, given the variance of one game we can miss. I mean, yeah, I mean, 4816 is very, very close to 40. But yeah, I mean, being on the wrong side of variance is something that, I've also kind of faced and witnessed, especially in Game Week 37. Not going for Richarlison and, not going for Madison. That costed me about 50 points. I mean, if I exclude captaincy, it was about 40-45 points. And I would definitely have captain Richarlison. So that could have been maybe somewhere around 60 or 60 odd points. And that was a huge, I mean, that was a crushing blow, right? That, after 37, I was like, I really don't care now because I'll take my chances. I'm not going to finish in top 10, top 25 or something like that. I might still have a chance in top 50, which again didn't happen because I didn't captain Son. And let's not even talk about it. Akila, hey to you. Hello. Welcome to the stream. Your last 10 game week captains were bad. It gets bad for you. At the time, I'm not gonna lie, the first half I was like top 50. I mean, yeah. I mean, there were I think 3 or 4 weeks where I was easily in the top 10K. I was about 5K, 6K. I was 7K as well. But yeah, I mean, you're competing with so many active managers, so many people who have so much content now, right? I mean, there's so much information available, whether you talk about the FPL show, whether you talk about different podcasts. There are so many YouTube channels now talking about FPL. There's so many, I mean, there are so many threads on Twitter where people, analyze different things, analyze data, analyze eye test, they analyze specific teams. So there's so much information available. It's actually quite tricky. I mean, if you've finished in even in a 50K, right? I mean, it's still a very good or a very commendable achievement. Was aiming for top 10K, but I mean, yeah, I mean, that's the same conversation again, right? We don't know, or at least to me, I think that top 10K is probably that bar is gonna shift, and the top 10K, which was earlier, I think that's gonna be the 50 top 50K very very soon, because with every year the number of people who are playing FPL, I think that's easily increasing by a million at least. And this season again, it's gonna increase. It's probably gonna go beyond 10 million. And I think we're going to get more active managers. We're going to get more people who are contributing in the community when it comes to creating content. So it's definitely going to be very, very difficult. Would love an FPL team of trolls for the season, Dennis. And I mean, yeah, I mean, why not? Why not make two teams and just, I mean, do absolute troll moves? You never know. I mean, FPL is a funny game, football is a funny game, so you don't know. Of course, you still have to make some logical decisions. But we've seen so many dead teams, and in fact, quite late in the season, we saw so many teams who I mean, I think there were at least a couple where people or managers haven't really changed anything and they were still in the top 10K. And to manage that without making any changes and just putting the captaincy on Salah, for example, who was also a huge factor in this year's game, because there was not a lot to talk about when you talk about captaincy for most weeks. Of course, there were always differentials, especially when Salah went for AFCON. That was that opportunity which at least I didn't nail personally, the opportunity to kind of go different and target the fixtures, target the players which are in form, etc. But in general, I think captaincy, that conversation kind of negated itself in this season. It might be different next season. We don't know. Haaland is coming. Maybe more signings are going to come. So we don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, why not have a troll team and just see what happens with that. Pookie as well. I mean, yeah, Pookie has been still a decent player. I mean, in general, I think if I think about Pookie and if I talk about Pookie, I think if I really have to, of course, he's still not in, he's nowhere close to being in the 11 of this season. But I mean, he still would be a decent player if I have to keep somebody on the bench as a second or a third striker. I think I mean, the price that he comes at, I think he's done his job. Especially playing for a team who dead last, who were relegated quite a few games before the season ended. So yeah, came first in six of your mini leagues. That's absolutely crazy. Second in one and third in one, fifth in one. That's really really good. I think overall, City was going to come back. I mean, yeah, uh, they always. I mean, I'm gonna refer to that season where we were almost on the verge of winning it, and they had a lot of character. They came back very strongly, and that, of course, that team was very very different, managed by a different manager. But Pep, I mean, whatever Patrice Evra says or whatever's out there in the media, etc., I still feel it's a team with huge characters, and people who take ownership, people who take there are leaders in that team. And Pep being Pep, I mean, he's still one of the best. I mean, yes, you can still argue that, and when you talk about statistics, you cannot come close to a Sir Alex Ferguson, for example. But when we talk about a football coach, right, of course, Ferguson is probably the greatest manager of all time in terms of the Premier League. Maybe Pep is not going to come close to him because he has to win consistently and he has to stay at City first and then win consistently, right? That might not happen, but Pep is still probably the best, football coach of Premier League. I mean, I can stick my neck out and probably argue, to that point. And I mean, he's the way he manages his team, the way he, sees every game, tries to, of course, beat the opposition by devising a different plan for a lot of teams. Of course, he still has a certain style of play which was very dominant when he was at Barcelona. It was also pretty evident when he was at Bayern Munich, and he got that philosophy, he got that mindset, he got that strategy when he came to Man City. I think it's worked out pretty well. I mean, I think it's the fourth title in the last 5 seasons, and that really really tells you that how they've dominated in the Premier League. I missed bench boost. I mean, did you miss using it, or I mean, do you miss the chip? I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but yeah. I mean, bench boost for me also another learning, and yeah, I can possibly just talk about it right now. I kept the bench boost till the final game week of the season. To a lot of people, it might think or it might feel that it was a huge advantage, but I personally don't think so. It was a big advantage at all, because I always had to keep this in mind that I need certain players. I need at least 2 to 3 players who are on my bench, and I need to play them, right. So I cannot just go for dud players. I cannot have uh, certain players who are not playing, who are just there to sit on the bench, and that kind of compromised my strategy when it comes to playing for the or at least eyeing for a good strong playing 11, which didn't happen, of course. But yeah, I mean, that's a huge learning that I at least had this season. I probably there's an optimal strategy that people talk about, that whenever you're playing your wild card, the next week or maybe the week after is probably the best time to play the bench boost, and then you can get rid of the chip. But I think next season I'll be a little bit more aware in terms of what bench I have every week and how can I get rid of that bench boost chip very very soon, because if I don't have that chip, I can then plan my 11, in a much better way, in a much more strategic way, right? And then that's definitely gonna happen next season. But yeah, we'll see when we can use it. Of course, it depends on the schedule, players, etc., etc. But yeah, I mean, that's a huge learning that I personally don't think it's a very great chip. I mean, the chances of nailing it are a lot lesser than what people think, and that's that. So, bro, I mean, yeah. Um, you can make a full team just with forwards. I mean, these are really interesting ideas and really exciting ideas. But we also have to think in terms of how FPL is gonna approach in the coming seasons, right? Because now with so many new managers coming up, so many more involved managers coming up, are they gonna go the serious route where they focus on those serious managers and make their experience a lot better, or are they gonna focus on getting newer and newer managers, more and more managers onto the platform, and maybe make it a little bit more casual so that people, of course, they have fun playing it, but they're also tuned into the game, because I'm sure every year FPL also kind of analyzes in terms of how many dead teams are there. Because I think by the end of the season, I don't think so. There'll be more than a and million and a half maybe managers who are actively playing, right? And that's also something that needs to be fixed. So maybe these kind of things helps with that. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I mean, something different, something that engages people a little bit more. I don't think so. If you've played the Euro Fantasy, or if you've played the UCL Fantasy, their chips like Limitless, their chips, the option to change your captain by every match or every match day. I mean, a lot of people say that it would make the game a little bit more engaging, but I just feel, I mean, a lot of people like to kind of just, of course, till the deadline to be very active, then just watch matches, forget about the score, forget about doing anything with their teams across the weekend, and then early next week or mid next week or by the end of next week, they just, then start preparing for the next week's team, or for the coming game week's team. So maybe these kind of changes help, but I mean, yeah, let's see. Excuse me. You feel Liverpool just gave? I mean, I think I really can't say that they gave up. To be honest, I mean, I have a different perspective there. I agree that they could have won, or they could have won certain games which did end up in a draw. But I generally don't feel that they just gave up the trophy like that, because I think at one point in time they were about 14 points away from Man City, if I'm not wrong, right? And they did claw back that advantage or that points difference to 1 point. So I personally feel that Liverpool, I mean, did push City all the way, but I think City, on a consistent basis across 38 games, I still feel City was definitely the better team. Yeah, that will be really interesting. Some players, reclassified as forwards. I mean, imagine the likes of Salah, Mane, a Son. Then you have Kane. Then you'll be having Haaland. Then there's Ronaldo. I'm not sure if I'm missing anybody here, but let's say Havertz as well. I mean, imagine if these kind of players all are classified as forwards, right? I still don't think so that they're gonna go that extreme. But imagine if these kind of players, are classified as forwards, then who do you choose? I mean, if you have to make a call between a Kane, a Salah, a Haaland, a Son, that decision is not going to be very easy, right? And then probably you won't even think about somebody like a Mane or a Sterling, for example, maybe even a Foden. I mean, let's say Foden, of course, might be a lot cheaper than these kind of players, but all the premium players, then who do you choose, right? And I think that's gonna make the game a little bit more interesting, because then it's just not template, right? I mean, if you remember the way season started, a lot of people were very heavy in terms of going Bowen, going Antonio. Of course, I also kind of uh, went a similar route, and that did pay off really well. All those people who had that combination, I think they, and of course, a decent all around team, they started the season really, really well. So if you have that template in general across the season also, when you know that you're always gonna captain maybe Salah. Of course, captaincy is a bit different because that really is based on the fixture and the performance and what kind of form the player is in. But in general, I mean, it just gets a bit monotonous. So you need that variety, you need that change, where you can actually make a tricky call. And it, of course, in this particular scenario, the variance could be even higher. I mean, let's say a particular game week, a Son, blanks, and then Salah goes absolutely crazy. They both are forwards, for example. Then there would be a huge distribution. So your rank might just yo-yo through the entire season. I mean, that could also be one way of doing it, but I think that'll just make the game a little bit more interesting. Same with City 2 though. I mean, yeah. I mean, getting the CL for Liverpool, I think that was also be a good achievement. I mean, that would be a great achievement even if Liverpool get the Champions League final. So yeah. I mean, yeah, bench boost chip, not a huge fan. Don't think so. It really benefits us. It makes. I mean, you have to use. I'm still not sure whether we can just avoid the chip altogether and not use it at all. I mean, I was thinking about doing this week, but I don't even know how many points I got on the bench. Don't even remember. 6, 8, 9 points. I mean, 9 points are of course they are still 9 points at the end of the day, but I mean, they can get something else in terms of the bench boost. Maybe change the captaincy points. Maybe add vice captaincy points as well, because that also I don't think so. A lot of people give a lot of attention to vice captaincy, for example, right? Because they'll of course captain the best player that they think will give them the most points, but vice captaincy is generally ignored. So maybe have certain points of vice captaincy as well. I think that's gonna make things interesting as well, because there could be a huge amount of players or managers who might go different routes when it comes to a vice captaincy decision. So I mean, these kind of small tweaks, I think one basic tweak in terms of what they can do towards the game is, I think, make the price changes very transparent. I mean, I think a lot of people have also spoken about it, maybe already have spoken about this thing, but just keep the price changes very transparent. Just tell people on the website itself, on the app or the platform itself, that these are the price changes that's going to happen, or this much percentage is left in terms of this player rising in price or falling in price, stuff like that. I mean, just basic stuff which I think enhances the overall experience of the game. I think that's going to make things a lot better, because then people will be more engaged, right? Of course, that should help them get more traffic, get regular traffic on their platform, whether it's the app or website or whatever. So yeah, I mean, that I mean, these are some basic tweaks that they can do very easily and just make the experience a lot better. You think both the Salah, Haaland, and premium defense? I mean, to be honest, a Salah, a Haaland, I'm assuming Salah is probably going to stay as a midfielder. Haaland comes as a forward, of course. Haaland probably would be somewhere around 12, if not more. I mean, I don't think so. He'll be 10, 11, or anything around that. I mean, he has to be 12 or 12.5. Maybe. I don't think so. He'll be 13 in his first season, but he's definitely going to be up there. So affording him plus Salah plus your premium defense, which is now the new norm of football, because earlier in earlier seasons we used to get these centre backs who used to get majority points, but now we have these. I mean, if the likes of James and Alonso played a little bit more, I mean, they could have easily competed with the likes of Trent and Robertson, even Cancelo, right? So I think it's going to be tricky, because it also depends on how these premium defenders are priced next season, because pricing, I think, is going to be very, very crucial. I still don't believe that a Trent is going to cost us 9 million. I generally don't think they're going to do that. Trent is already 8.4, so he's probably, I mean, the best that they can do with him is probably 8.5. But again, how much is Cancelo? Does he stay 7, 7.5, 8? I mean, he's a 200-point player, right? And he's competing with somebody like a Bowen as well. I mean, and of course he's higherly priced, but in terms of the points output, I think it's almost quite similar. So we don't know what's gonna happen there. And of course, Rudiger's leaving, the likes of Laporte, maybe Cash also. I mean, of course, these are all fullbacks and wingbacks, and yeah, I mean, I personally feel affording all these premiums, and I think going heavy in terms of your premium defense then having Salah and Haaland, I think that's gonna need a few sacrifices elsewhere on the pitch, and then you'll kind of find these budget enablers, which may or may not be available, right? I mean, we don't. Of course, there every season there is or there are a certain crop of players who you can kind of depend on. So you'll probably have to find those gems and kind of fit into the whole setup if you want these kind of players. I mean, it depends a lot on the pricing, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, if they're similarly priced or if they're high a little bit higher as well, I mean, things could get a bit tricky. They should cap the spend. I mean, that's also an interesting idea. Capping the spend per team to 20 million. That would break. I mean, that should break a lot of templates. Absolutely. If you, I mean, I think it's gonna make things a bit trickier. I mean, just think from a casual, and it's a brilliant idea, and for somebody who's very engaged or very involved in the game, I think it'll be a lot more easier to grasp. But for a casual player, I think it's gonna become a little bit difficult to understand what's happening. So I think they'll have to kind of maintain that balance. Personally, think the bench boost. I mean, absolutely, it should be used before the second wild card. Second wildcard onwards, just optimize for 12 players. I mean, that's a really good point and a really good strategy to go for. Yeah, I mean, injuries, rotations, they're generally higher in the second half, especially at the end of the season when you were, kind of reaching towards 34, 35. Game week 37, 38 saw a lot of rotation. Even 36, for example, saw a lot of rotation. So, and that's going to happen every season, right? I don't think so that trend is going to change. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree with your point that the bench boost can be easily used a lot quicker or a lot earlier than at least I mean I waited for the last game week of the season, which was absolutely crap. um 20 million you can't get Trent. I mean, yeah, you can absolutely not get Trent, Salah, Son and Kane as well. So then you have to kind of see, whether you, let's say if you go for a Son and Kulusevski, maybe you go for Son and two very cheap defenders, maybe a Sessegnon or a Davis. I mean, this is just one particular example. But yeah, I mean, it is a good, I mean, for me, it sounds very interesting. But yeah, I mean, for casual people or who are, who are not very serious, I mean, it might be a little bit difficult to grasp. So yeah. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think in general, my season was still okay. I'll just quickly talk about a few takeaways that of course, bench boost was definitely one. In general, I think this season when I was noticing these trends, I think one thing that I kind of missed was, yes, I did get a few hauls in place where I was having Antonio Bowen. Of course, everybody had Salah. Most of the people were already captaining him, so there's nothing that gave me an advantage there. But I think there were a lot of players who were on good hauls. I mean, Bernardo Silva. I mean, I think almost everybody would have forgotten Bernardo Silva was also doing really well initially. I mean, missed those hauls. I think those were pretty crucial. I mean, that was not for a long time. But even James, right? I mean, James, yes, he still looks decent when you see the overall points in terms of the FPL points. But I mean, he's generally had those 4 or 5 big hauls where he's gone absolutely crazy. A clean sheet, attacking returns as well, bonus points as well. So those hauls are generally difficult to catch, and I was definitely on the wrong side of it. I held him for a long time, so I think another key takeaway from me specifically for this season is that I was a bit reluctant in terms of going, getting rid of certain players. Martinelli is one huge example. I think a lot of people, when they were targeting Arsenal assets, a lot of people went Saka because Saka looked like the better asset. I tried to counter that strategy by going for somebody like a Martinelli because I generally felt that Martinelli could explode, he could play up top, but that didn't happen for majority of the season. He did get a lot of minutes. In terms of minutes specifically, I think it was a decent decision, but I mean, everything was going through Saka, everything was flowing through Saka. He was also on penalties at one point of time, which was probably very unexpected in general from people, right? But that reluctance of making that switch, which should have been a lot earlier. I mean, I did get Saka, so it's not that I just never got Saka. But when I got him, it was too late. I mean, it was too late, almost at the end of the season. And by the time he was, nursing an injury, he didn't return, and I had lost out on a lot of points. I mean, when I say a lot of points, really a lot of points, because Martinelli was either not starting. He was, even if he was starting, he was not really scoring or giving any sort of returns, to be honest. So players like him, players like James, which I held on in a hope of that haul. I think that was probably one huge wrong move that I did. I also held Antonio. So I mean, in general, what I'm trying to say is that I held on to a lot of players which I think should have been moved on a lot earlier, because there were a lot of different players or different targets that were doing really well, different potential FPL players who were giving hauls. And I think that's my kind of second takeaway here, is that there was one thing that I didn't do enough this season, was probably identify those hauls, identify those players who are coming in the right side of form. I probably watched them a little bit too much in terms of what's going to happen there. So I gave away a few game weeks, at least a few game weeks of returns where they really went crazy. So I think that's something that I need to kind of adjust in my game, which also was also a kind of a learning last season. But yes, it's been a little bit better because I've still gotten hauls from a lot of players. But yes, there are still players that I kind of missed out on. I think that is something that I would definitely want to look out for. In terms of captaincy and everything, I think it was pretty good, because I think most of the people who went Salah, I mean, most more often than not, they did really really well. And that time when the Afcon was happening, of course he was not there. Then of course you were trying to target the best fixture, best player in form, all of that stuff. There were high chances of getting that wrong, and I did get a couple of good hauls, decently well. But I mean, yeah. So yeah, these are some. I think these are points that I would definitely want to work on and want to improve on next season. Um, Hey Akshat, hello to you. Haaland can cost around. I mean, I think it's gonna be 11.5, 12. I don't think so. I don't think so. It's probably gonna be 11.5, 12, or maybe 12.5 is something that I am expecting. But yeah, let's see. Bernardo Silva, Gallagher. I mean, yeah, so many players, right? Bernardo Silva, Gallagher, Smith Rowe. I mean, James. James was absolutely killing my rank. When I went for somebody like a Chilwell, for example, I went for Alonso, for example. That week, James ended up getting 19, 20 points, and that major haul that he had. And similarly with Son as well, I think I missed Son, but there was a lot of reluctance in getting Son as well, because it had to kind of do with changing the whole structure of the team. Son was not an easy target to get. The only reason, or the only way I could have gotten Son was to probably just get rid of Salah and then just make a straight swap, which I think not just me, majority of the managers weren't ready to do that, right? Because we had already seen how Salah was doing, how well he was performing the entire season. And I think it was FOMO more than anything else, because yes, he didn't do any. I mean, his form, of course, plummeted, and his numbers also plummeted. I mean, his underlying stats were still okay. He was not getting goals, not getting returns, enough returns in terms of what we had seen earlier in the season. But I think all of us kind of just were scared to get rid of Salah, because the effective ownership and the ownership in general of Salah was so high that we were all playing very defensively in that regard. I still know a few managers who went against that template, tried to get in Son at the right time, and they did end up, playing really well. I also have spoken to a few managers who got rid of Salah at the wrong time, and he hauled big, and then they ended up losing a lot of rank, and they couldn't recover from it. So it's that these kind of decisions that you probably need to keep an eye out in terms of what you can do, in terms of which players you can target, whether you, and it also kind of depends on your risk appetite, right? I mean, whether you're willing to take a lot of risk, what kind of manager you are you a patient manager? And that's kind of ties down to the last point in my key takeaways. I was a very patient manager for across almost the entire season. There was this phase, I think, around game week 29, 30 to about 34, where I think I started losing patience. And you might think that, when I start losing patience, or when somebody loses patience, they'll just probably do random moves. I mean, they'll just try to get in, try to chase hauls, maybe take risks, but not thoughtful risk, or not calculated guesses, right? Just randomly bringing in players. I didn't do that. I just went into a shell where I was just playing very, very safe. I was not. Uh, I mean, and that's a very personal learning, a very personal perspective this season. For about 4 or 5 weeks, it was a very, I had that sort of a mind space where I was kind of locked out in terms of what players I can get in, what are the players that are having decent fixtures or good fixtures, or which targets I can target, or which players I can go for. I think I kind of missed the bus there. And I think that could have been another huge reason in terms of not ending in a particular rank which I am probably comfortable with. So yeah, I mean, I think you still have to be a lot more patient. Of course, you can still make those maverick moves and still try to chase halls. I mean, you go ultra differential. I don't think so. It's gonna work 38 game weeks out of 38 game weeks. Right? It might work. It might work for a few weeks in terms of captaincy. It might give you, let's say, for a particular fixture, and this is what we saw with KDB as well, right? Of course, KDB scoring 4 goals with a very low XG, it was a bit of an anomaly. It's not going to happen every time. But I mean, he still had a good fixture. I mean, he had a good haul potential that week, and he did really really well. Yes, he could have still had more. I mean, people who captained KDB like me, and this is me on the right side of variance here. A lot of people who did captain him, they did kind of felt that he could have scored even more goals. So I mean, this is something that you personally have to kind of see for yourself. But yeah, I personally feel that I lost a bit of patience with the game, and I was kind of in a zone where it was difficult to come out because my thinking kind of was just focused on one in a particular direction, and I was not looking at all possibilities, which I think as an FPL manager, at least now, I mean, things could have been different, or the way the game was played a few seasons before, I think that would be a lot different. But now, with so much competition, with so much awareness, with so many people actively tuned in to the game the entire season, I think if you really want to finish in those elite ranks or whatever ranks you feel are good for you, then I think you have to be checked on the entire time. We'll take up the next one. This season, actually saying this season, despite being a lot, I mean, yeah, lots of ups and downs, lots of yo-yoing in terms of rank. Uh, it did help in terms of the extra free hit. I think there were a few split strategies in terms of when you can use that free hit, and I think the ones who did keep it for the last moment, I think they did really benefited a lot. Personally, for me, I think in terms of chip strategy, apart from bench boost, that's probably the only decision that I'm not 100% happy about. I mean, there was still upside because I was still trying to. I used my free hit chip in 37, 36. My bad, 36, and where a lot of good teams had double game week. So of course you had a lot of good options, a lot of good players, a lot of good teams, but there was also a risk of rotation. There was also a chance of a lot of players missing out and all that stuff. And I personally didn't anticipate that the likes of Leicester, the likes of Everton specifically, the way they were playing. Of course, they were in the relegation zone, so the response was pretty much expected. But the way it happened, didn't anticipate that. Didn't really anticipate the likes of Madison and Richarlison scoring 15 plus points, and that was a huge swing because I can't really even say that I didn't expect those players to do well and I didn't get them. Maybe I think if I was in a free hit that week, I would have definitely gotten them along with a Zaha, along with an Ings. And these, especially when I didn't have the free hit that week, I think I just had to take a call in terms of which player to go for because I could only choose between one between Richarlison and Ings, and I chose Ings. Similarly, between Madison and Zaha, I chose Zaha. So Zaha plus Ings combination, I mean, it did really, really badly. And then it was such a huge variance that, I mean, you can't even imagine the numbers, right? 29K to 79K, that really speaks volumes, especially when it is at this end of the season because end of the seasons it's actually a bit tricky, a bit difficult to kind of gain rank and then also lose rank. But because of this much variance, I mean, people were literally yo-yoing from 1K to 100K all of a sudden in a week and a half. So it was actually very, very crazy. Um, Congratulations on new. Yeah, I mean, mini league winners. We'll just quickly put them on the screen. So these are the winners that are there. Congratulations, guys, to all of you. I think it'll probably come on the screen very soon. I mean, I don't know what the name is. It's maybe D10S. So he's won the Insanely Football Mini League. He got 2,700 points. It was pretty close between him and Peaky Boy. I mean, these names are quite cool actually. So just 2 points between both of them. Congratulations to both. Even third place, I know Santans has had a good season across the board, and I think a little bit off in terms of the third place and in terms of difference between the third position. But I mean, Just not these three, of course. Big congratulations to all three of them because they also did win prize money. So the first place got 5k, 5,000 rupees, and it was a cash league. Second place got 2,500. The third place got 1,000. But in general, I think even people who have come fourth till 10th, even the earlier positions, right? I mean, congratulations to all of you. I mean, you've generally had a good season. At least that's what I think. Of course, you might have a different opinion about the ranks and all that stuff, but I mean, and a huge thank you, in fact, to all of you for taking part in this league and making it a success. I mean, we can only go up from here. We can only involve more managers so that there's a lot more competition. Of course, there's a lot more engagement as well in terms of when we are going, month on month, and then we end the season with a lot of competition for that first place itself. So, and that really makes things very interesting. One thing that worked for me, for you this season, is selling players immediately. I mean, yeah, because of the fixture. I mean, even if they haul, and that's something that at least I need to adjust in terms of how I play the game. If a player certainly hauls, I mean, KDB hauled for and got 4 goals. A lot of people started buying KDB instead of maybe a Son, for example, instead of a Madison, instead of maybe a Richarlison for that 1 week punt, right? So you really need to look at the fixtures. Yes, it's always a debate between form and fixtures, and which way to kind of go towards, because even if certain players have tough fixtures, they could still, and this is to kind of counter your point. Uh, Even if they have tough fixtures, if they are in form, if they are playing really well, I mean, they can still score points, they can still do well, right? But I think if you have opportunities, which you've mentioned, if you have opportunities, if you have certain directions that you can go towards, I think you should definitely keep an eye out. Of course, you might make a transfer, you might still keep them in your team. That's totally a fair call, but just keep an eye out in terms of where or what are the opportunities, and then kind of compare it with a certain player in form, maybe having slightly trickier fixtures. If FPL gives us unlimited transfers after the World Cup, that is, I mean, could be. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think when the pandemic happened and the huge break thing happened, so they did give us unlimited transfers to kind of tune back into the game. But yeah, I mean, that was a different scenario. The gap was a lot more. There was a lot of uncertainties. Maybe it's not going to happen with the World Cup break. But yeah, I mean, they might just give an additional free hit. Might be a possibility. But yeah, let's see. I'm not sure they're going to give us unlimited transfers. I mean, highly unlikely. We could have 4 chances to make unlimited transfers. I mean, yeah, game week 1, World Cup, 2 wildcards, almost every wildcard. I mean, yeah, every. Let's see. I still don't think that's gonna happen, but I mean, yeah, could happen. Do you know about Savansh? Yes, I do. I did drop him a message on Twitter as well. A huge congratulations to him. A huge shout out. I mean, he's had a great season. Of course, he's made the whole country proud, and I was so much wishing that he wins it, because I think it's, of course, it'll be great for him because he'll have a great experience. He'll have a lot of lot of love, lot of fans in the community. But I think an Indian winning the FPL, I think it would have been so massive for the Indian community. It will definitely help, a lot more, a lot many people tuning in, playing the game, getting more engaged, getting more involved. Maybe even a lot more people, Indian people, creating content, because right now I don't see a lot of people doing that, right? So yeah, I mean, it would have been really, really massive for the Indian community. We're still growing. We're still growing every year, but yeah, that growth would have been a lot faster. Not like, I mean, yeah, yeah, but I still feel it's probably going to be tricky. I mean, unlimited transfers, maybe. Personally, you did better when you devalued stats in your thinking and went with eye test and gut. I mean, yeah, that's always a great debate, right? In terms of how do you play the game. I mean, of course, you can see stats, you can understand that these players are doing well. I mean, let's take an example of Salah, for example, right? Salah did have great statistics in spite of not scoring, not giving any mostly not giving any returns, but he still had good underlying stats. That's one of the reasons, and of course the ownership as well. Let's just keep the ownership aside. There were still a lot of people who did keep Salah, right? And then because a lot of people play this game in such a way where they do value stats a lot. I mean, it can work in your favor. It can also kind of make things very tricky for you, because if you start believing stats a lot more than the eye test, if you don't see matches, if you don't hear from what people are saying, if you don't watch your highlights yourself, for example, I think it becomes a bit tricky, because then you're lost into the whole bubble. You see statistics, and you want to get the right set of players, or right players who have good stats may or may not be getting you returns, and that didn't work in specifically in case of Salah. So I mean, there has to be a balance between both. I mean, I test still. I mean, there's still a lot of really premium, really good managers who who don't believe in statistics and who just go by eye test. They watch matches, they watch highlights, they watch games, they understand who's doing what, who's playing where. Maybe they read stuff on Twitter as well. There are a lot of threads. I mean, in general, if you don't want to look at statistics, there's still a lot of threads which talk about positional play, right? In terms of which team is playing what formation, how are they kind of coming on, what kind of oppositions are they facing, and what's the strategy to face a particular opposition, whether it's a top half team, maybe a top four, top 60, maybe a team which is probably facing the relegation or in the relegation battle. So I mean, there's a lot you can still kind of digest. But yeah, I mean, I think you should still trust your own gut at the end of the day. I mean, everybody will have a different opinion about a lot of things. You might speak to maybe 10 of your friends who might have a different opinion about one particular player, right? So that's also a possibility. But at the end of the day, I think you should still follow your gut, and still follow what you think is the best move. You can still absorb information if that helps, or maybe you just shut out any kind of distractions, any kind of information. There's still a lot of people who also do that as well, right? And that's not a bad way of playing the game. I mean, yeah, KDB was an absolute good example. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of times where he did get injured, or he was maybe not 100% fit, but he was still playing. But I mean, overall, he still did pretty well. I mean, yeah, having a plan B and a plan C in case of football does football things, which generally happens a lot when we talk about FPL. But yeah, it's always good to have a plan B and a plan C, maybe an alternative in terms of the move that you're doing. If that doesn't work out, what will happen then? I think it's always good to do a little bit homework, little bit in your head in terms of what you want to do, and then kind of just see how football pans out, and then you of course you take your calls accordingly. I mean, a free hit with no price bracket, it's. I mean, if they do that, most of the people are gonna get the same premiums, right? So, if there's no price restriction at all, team value won't really matter for that particular week, right? Even on a free hit right now, team value matters. So I'm not sure it's really gonna differentiate a lot, because I think most of the people are gonna go for identical teams, because when you talk about premium defenders, everybody will have, let's say, like a Robertson or a Trent, or maybe a Robertson, Trent, James, Cancelo. A lot of teams, when they have money invested elsewhere, they're not able to get the entire combination or the entire set. So I'm not sure. Yeah, not sure if that's the right approach. Dallas from yeah, I mean Dallas was absolutely crazy. I don't think so. There was this. There were any defenders this season who were very, I mean, good budget enablers or good defenders who were very cheap, and I mean who were decently priced and who did really well. I mean, Cody is the cheapest in the top 10, I think, and he's also 4.7. But other than that, it's all premium defense. It's all mostly wingbacks, mostly fullbacks. In the top 6, 7. I think Laporte is probably sixth. Yeah, Van Dijk is fourth, and he's a centre back. But again, we know that Van Dijk gets a lot of goals, gets a lot of bonus points as well in terms of how he plays and how Liverpool plays. Um, what are some of the season end reviews that we can check out? I know a lot of. I know of FPL review, live FPL's review. I mean, yeah. I think there are a lot of other places as well where you can actually, uh, you know, uh, see your entire season in terms of. I'm not sure whether anyone's. I mean, I'm not sure whether anyone's doing it on YouTube or maybe creating a video out of it. But I think there'll be a few people maybe explaining in terms of what's happening, or what's probably what are people talking about in these kind of reviews, because at least that, and that's what I kind of also felt in terms of when people are going on these platforms, maybe an FPL review, maybe there are a couple of other platforms as well, and I'll add that in the comments later. and I'll probably even add the link so that you can go and check it out yourself. I mean, there are a lot of graphs, there's a lot of data that's interpreted, but for somebody like me as well, right, who's probably not good with graphs, good with I'm okay with numbers, but who's not great with the interpretation of a lot of stuff, it might get a bit intimidating, right? So I think it'll be interesting to kind of I mean, I will see if we can do that, maybe do something of that sort for our own team. Not sure if that would warrant a whole video. Maybe something on Instagram, maybe something on stories. Maybe you can go live with it, something like that. But I'll think about it. I mean, it'll be actually cool. It'll be actually very interesting to kind of break down how you are able to review your team, because I think if you're able to understand, if you are able to grasp what the data means, right? What the data is telling you to do. I think that could also still be a good way of analyzing a season. I mean, yes, maybe you're okay playing, maybe you're okay switching off, and when you talk about data, when you're playing the game on a week by week basis, but that data which is collated over the over a collection of 38 game weeks. I mean, when you're talking about learnings, when you're talking about things where you can actually improve, that could really help you, and give you a lot of insights in terms of how you can approach the next season. So I mean, that could be interesting. I'll probably add. I mean, FPL review live FPL is still there, but I'll probably add a couple of more names, which where you can see and check your review, season review, and we'll see if we can do a video, or maybe something around those lines. Let's see. I'm not too sure right now, but yeah, I'll look into what we can do there. I think stats with context to form fixtures and players' overall ability. I mean, yeah, it depends on how you are taking this stats versus eye test, and how you're implementing it into your own game, right? A lot of people just go black and white. They probably just go in one direction. A lot of people kind of do the combination of both, and try to get the best out of it. I think you have to do what works for you. They, again, as I said, there's no one particular way of playing the entire game, right? You can you can probably have a different perspective on it altogether. Yeah, FPL optimize, and thanks Brian for pointing that out. I think that is pretty intense in terms of how they've analyzed your season, and I think yeah, I'll add the links in case if you guys want after the stream. I mean, yeah, he was a good enabler, and won't lie, Tino was a decent enabler, but I mean that also kind of did fall apart after in the second half, where I think when he got injured, and I think then it was a bit tricky. But yeah, no enablers. I think specifically in defense, no specific, no certain players where we could really look at, because I think the template was very premium. In terms of how people were having those players in their teams. I think it was pretty set in terms of going double Liverpool, double Chelsea. Maybe you get a combination and you make. I don't think so. A lot of people went double City in the early part of the season. I think everybody had Cancelo. Maybe they also had Diaz. I think there was this debate about which double to kind of go for, and I think a lot of people went Chelsea, when specifically when in those weeks when Chilwell and James were playing, then it was James plus Alonso. I think Robertson and Trent also, it was an expensive combination, and if your team value is a bit lower, you probably would have had to make some sacrifices elsewhere on the pitch. But yeah, I mean, no specific enabler. I mean, you have players in midfield who were really good, who were really of good value. Forwards this season were really bad. I mean, I'm not sure what's gonna happen next season, but I mean, if you talk about a playing 11, or the strongest 11 for the season, of course, I think Kane still makes it. But I would, if given a chance, I probably would want to add an additional defender, or maybe a midfielder, right? Because all the forwards were really bad. I mean, Kane, and specifically Ronaldo at 12.2, 12.3, more than 12 million, and giving about 150 points. On the other hand, you have a lot of decently priced midfielders who've done really well. I mean, the likes of Madison, the likes of Bowen, for example, Saka, for example. You've had these premium defenders as well, where they're giving you clean sheet points, they're giving you attacking returns as well. So it's always that question, right? Which player? Of course, they're different positions, because you can't compare a James to maybe a Pookie, for example, who might be in a similar price range. But and I think that's the one of the reasons the template got very premium defender heavy, because these guys are doing really really well, and there weren't really any options in terms of attack, in terms of forwards. I hope that changes next season, but I mean, yeah, let's see. Ben White helped. I mean, yeah, Ben White did help you cover Ramsdale. I mean, I had Ben White plus Ramsdale, so I'm not sure what I did and there and why I did. I mean, again, one another reason of struggling a little bit this season was because I mean, I had double Arsenal defense. Ramsdale for a majority of the season did really really well, and I think if I had to pick one keeper, let me know what you think about which keepers did well for you, or which would be your best keeper. Because I think if you ask me, I think my keeper still would be Ramsdale, because he was a great enabler. I generally, personally, for me, not spending a lot of money on an expensive keeper, generally is the way to go. I like playing that way, because I feel when you compare somebody like an Allison to maybe a James, of course, in a regular season where James and Alonso are playing very frequently, there's a lot more upside to these kind of wingbacks, fullbacks, and defenders. Mostly keepers are not going to give you. I mean, they mostly won't be in bonus points. Yes, they will still get save points. They can still get you clean sheet points, but that a defender can do as well. So Ramsdale actually did well. And I think I personally did okay there, because I identified Ramsdale very early in the season, and I stuck with him in spite of him not. Maybe I could have changed him to somebody like a Schmeichel in the later half, maybe a Pickford, who were okay for a few game weeks, but it was not continued across a consistent set of weeks. So I'm not sure. I mean, whether going for, because I think the advantage of having Ramsdale was definitely a lot higher than those certain keepers initially in the season, and I don't think so that advantage would have been set off or would have been negated by a huge deal. Yes, I could have still lost out points by not having a Pickford, not having a Schmeichel at the right time, but then getting that haul is very tricky, and that's something again with the bench boost on still remaining. I had to have Sanchez, who almost didn't play any games for me, and I think that was a lot of. I mean, I could have spent a lot less on a second keeper which I was not playing, and I could have invested that additional money elsewhere. So predict a player who you think will do well in the budget option next season. Trippier for me right now. I mean, Trippier could do. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, Trippier was 5-5 maybe this season. I'm not sure how much he did start with. Maybe he's gonna be 5, but if he's at 5, I think he could be a great option. Um, I still don't think 5 million is a budget option, especially when it comes to defenders. Let's see. I mean, depends on how many or what kind of players also come in, right? Because a lot of players, a lot of picks that have done well, whether it's in midfield, whether it's in attack. I mean, there hardly been any good forwards this season, but players like Bowen, players like Saka, players like Madison, I think all of them are gonna improve or increase in price. Uh, Even a Rafinha, I think, is definitely gonna increase in price. So we might get more picks, more players. So right now, I think it'll be a bit tricky to say which player could do well. But yeah, I mean, uh, to your point, I think Trippier could do really well. It'll be interesting to see how Newcastle kind of kick on from where they did leave the season, because I think it was a pretty interesting season the way Newcastle started. I mean, everybody kind of expected them to go down very early in the season itself, and then the whole ownership changed. Of course, money came into play. Eddie Howe came into the picture as well. So, and then they finished the season very very strong. I think they were 11th, and the second half, not even the second half. I mean, almost touching middle season to the end of the season, I think they did really, really well. So I think things could be interesting for Newcastle. I think if Trippier gets a lot of game time, he might be a great option, because Newcastle's defense has been really good. I mean, if you look at their defensive numbers, if you look at how they defend generally, right? Teams like Arsenal, etc., did struggle to create chances to to score against a Newcastle defense. So yeah, that could be interesting. My entire season I didn't have KDB and Chilwell. I mean, yeah, KDB you might have gotten hampered a bit by not having him. Chilwell, of course, might not have killed your rank that much, because he got injured very soon. But yeah, I mean, let's see. If Gelhardt gets regular starts, I mean, yeah, he could be a cheap enabler, but we'll have to see how he fits into the system, because I think next season Bamford's gonna be in there. Now, whether he's gonna play with Bamford, whether he's gonna play behind him, whether he's gonna have uh, minutes which are kind of rotated. We'll have to see what happens there. But yeah, I mean Gelhardt, I think he was one player who was really confident for that Leeds team, who wanted to impact or do something when he comes onto the pitch. A lot of Leeds players were just not in it. They were probably at the end lucky to kind of to not get relegated. But yeah, I mean, if he does get regular minutes, I think he could be a great option. I mean, I would be really interested in a couple of Aston Villa players as well. Now that I'm thinking about it, you have players. You have a couple of midfielders who are in there. Olise could be. I mean, could kick on really well. We'll have to see what kind of position he plays in the team. How advanced is he, and then how much of the ball is he getting? And of course, if Crystal Palace make any new signings, what kind of players are playing around him? I think he could also be a very good option. And he's 5.3. I'm seeing on the screen is 5.3 right now, and I don't think so. He's going to be more than 5.5. Maybe just 5, right? So I think he could also be a decent option. Forwards are a bit tricky to, in general, kind of see. I'm not sure how much is Sessegnon going to be, because pricing generally is going to be very, very crucial. Because if Sessegnon, again, it might be difficult to see Sessegnon getting a lot of minutes with Reguilon also being fit and maybe Doherty also being fit. I mean, it could be a bit tricky, but I mean, if he starts regularly, I mean, he also could be a great option. But I personally don't see him starting as a regular. Let's see. That could change, of course. Preseason could get us a lot of more information, a lot of different things which probably we are not expecting right now. But yeah, I think it's gonna be very, very interesting. And yeah, forwards were really bad. You were kind of forced in your approach in terms of how you line up. Of course, I still did field three forwards with a Weghorst and an Adams for some reason, but and then played three up top. But I think, yeah, three five. Even a 3-5-2 or a 4-4-2 was a bit difficult this season. I mean, if you had one, it was also about which forward would click which week, right? Because you have forwards like Dennis, you have forwards like Tony, for example, even Ronaldo for that matter. Of course, he's not in the same price category at all. But all these three forwards, if you look at their returns, if you look at their statistics, I mean, they've had weeks where they've gone and scored, 2 goals. They've gone and scored a hat trick. They've gotten about 15 points, 10, 12 points, something around 20 points. And the next 4, 5 games, maybe 8 games, maybe 10 games, they don't return, right? So that's a huge problem that's happened with the forwards this season. I mean, we've hardly got any forward who's been consistently among the points, whether you talk about assists, whether you talk about bonus points, whether you talk about creating chances. I mean, you had the likes of Antonio very early in the season. He was doing absolutely great, but then he also plummeted really bad. I mean, his start was absolutely crazy, where I think he scored about 3 or 4 goals. Yeah, he scored 4 goals and he got 4 assists in the first 3 games. So that was absolutely crazy. But then, of course, he didn't convert that into a huge score at the end of the FPL season. There were a lot of blanks. I mean, he there were times where probably about maybe in 15 odd games he didn't score a single goal. So yeah, it would be interesting to see what kind of forwards come into the game next season. And also Haaland. I mean, a lot of people have this anticipation around Haaland that he's gonna definitely give Man City goals, but we don't know that yet. I mean, yes, that's the expectation that now City is probably gonna be unbeatable, and they probably create a distance between themselves and a Liverpool team as well. But I mean, we just don't know yet how. But there's a chance that he might struggle. There's a chance that he might take some time to adapt. Yes, it's Haaland we're talking about, and he's probably the best young forward at the moment. But I mean, yeah, adjusting in the Premier League, coming back to the Premier League, or coming to the Premier League, I mean, it hasn't been that easy for overseas players. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens there. A simpler way to break templates is to have a rule covering at least. I mean, yeah, these kind of things would break the template, and I think would make the things interesting. So maybe FPL takes a note of it. I'm not sure whether they'll maybe be taking a note of this particular thing. But yeah, I mean that's a really good suggestion. Could really happen, and could make the game a lot more different in terms of how we approach, because then the templates will break. There'll be 100 directions where people could go towards, right? And I think make things very, very interesting. Um Next one, we'll take the next comment. Pookie gave a better value. I mean, yeah, he absolutely did. I mean, there's no question about it that he was, more valuable than than Ronaldo. Even if comparing the tough fixtures, Pookie moves to a random. I mean, could happen. He might come back to Premier League, but which club would he go to? I mean, there's Burnley's not there. Maybe he comes to Palace. I mean, no, I don't think so. He'll come back to the Premier. I mean, to play, yes, he's done well for a Norwich team, and whenever he's come back to the Premier League, he's been okay. But yeah, I mean, he's also. I mean, I don't know how old is he. I think he's definitely in his mid 30s, if not more. Let's just quickly see how old is Pookie. 32. Yeah, so might not come back. Might just come back as a reserve striker or as a second striker. But yeah, Chilwell will still be around 6. But I mean, he would be great value, of course. I expect the likes of James, the likes of Alonso, if he stays in the Prem, I expect him there to go up. I think Chilwell definitely won't have a price rise, and I think he could be great value. I mean, he was playing really, really well when he was playing, right? And there could be a lot to gain there. So excited about him, and happy for him that he's back now. And it was a horrendous injury because we all play the game, we all support different teams, but we would never want certain players or football players to get injured like that. But yeah, just happy that he's back in the game. I mean, yeah. Also depends on the preseason in terms of what happens, whether there are injuries, how much is he playing. If Alonso goes, I think Alonso goes, to be very very honest. But yeah, let's see. Shantan, you're in the chat. Didn't see you there. We'll hello to you and congratulations. Third in our mini league. I think more than that, of course, there's a cash prize and all that stuff to it. But I think more than that, you've had a great, great season. So congratulations to you, and yeah, you've done a wonderful job. And I hope you kind of continue that next season as well. Your interest is probably a little bit more in the in the next season. So yeah, do let me know what your overall rank was. I'm not sure how much was your overall rank. Um, just get tougher to pay. I mean, yeah, premiums are actually getting a bit tougher to pick every season. I mean, Trent, James, Son, KDB, Kane, Salah, Haaland. I mean, yeah, that's a lot to kind of take in and digest. Absolutely. I mean, how old are you, Santhan? And SVV. It's 2175. That's absolutely crazy. Great, great stuff. Great stuff. I mean, that's definitely one to remember. And we don't know what's gonna happen in the future, but yeah, India rank. Oh, I'm just missed the top 100 in India by one, but yeah, I mean that's really really good. Oh, there's a lot. There's a huge price difference. No, not why did I say price difference? There's a huge age difference between us. I mean, I'm 30, but yeah, there's a lot of young people in the chat. Hey Shan, I think your exams are going on. I'm not sure whether I'm right or not, but yeah, I think your the second set of boards is what I remember. So we've just been catching up in terms of how our season went, and I mean, no, I don't want to be called by you and all. I mean, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. You can. My name is Vaibhav, and you can call me by my name. That's absolutely fine. Bruno could be a good option. Could be 10 or 9.5. I mean, could be. But I just don't see him falling to 10, 9.5. I mean, might might come down. I mean, how much is he right now? 11.6, right? He started the season. I think has to be 12, if not 12.5. Yeah, he was 12. Might not come down to 10. Might be 11. Might be 11. Let's see. I mean, you had a maths exam. Oh man, I just feel scared when I think about maths and my board exams. I was this close to not. to miss my board exam, because I was so scared of giving it, because I thought I'll actually I won't pass the exam, and it was absolutely crazy. That 12th board exam was something. I mean, lucky that maths doesn't give you a lot of problems. I mean, I've had nightmares. I've had sleepless nights. You know, thinking about mathematics, and I in fact, in when I was in 12th, which was of course a long time back, I didn't even attend my last month, 2 months of classes, like the regular classes. Of course, board exams were happening, so you get a lot of time off. But in general, didn't attend. Used to play football. Used to bunk classes, play football, and was so scared because, of course, never had a. Can't blame the teachers only, but yeah, I was too scared of the teachers as well. They were not really very appreciative of the fact that we were so weak and we couldn't understand anything. But yeah, maths was scary, man. It was really really scary. Huh. What else, guys? What else is happening? How long are we in the stream? We're about 1 hour 15 minutes, something like that. We'll probably stay for about 15 more minutes, and then we'll wrap it up. Do let me know what you want to see on the channel, guys. I did discuss in terms of what we are planning, in terms of the content, etc. But yeah, I mean, would you be interested if we do any sort of tactical analysis of teams, any sort of transfer? Of course, there'll be a transfer playlist where we talk about rumors, where we talk about confirmed transfers. But I think it'll be interesting to kind of do specific videos about certain players and how they can fit into the team. I think that could be one interesting option. But do let me know if you want to see something else, or what do you want to see on the channel, because there we have a lot of time before the FPL starts again. So yeah. I think there has to be a lot of content for sure in terms of the preseason, because I think we will kind of help you guys in terms of deciding your first game week draft. Of course, there'll be a lot of I will be watching a lot of. I'll at least try to watch a lot of preseason friendlies, preseason games, and get to an understanding where I can give you more information about specific clubs, players, and what's happening there. So I think that'll be interesting. We'll have to see more FPL related collab. I mean, yeah, that's something that I am definitely gonna try to do. Let's see if we can crack some collaborations, because of course, right? Yes, we've reached 1,000 subscribers. We're still a small channel, but yeah, we'll definitely reach out to a few people out there. Let's see if we can get something with FPL Wire as well. I mean, I've always loved their content. I've always loved what they've been doing for the Indian community. I mean, more than of course their FPL experience, FPL ranks, and all that stuff. I think FPL Wire generally does a good job of keeping people engaged. They give a lot of good advice, just not about which teams, which players, ranks, etc. I think in general they've they've tried to grow and increase the FPL community in India, and I think a collaboration with them could be very very interesting. So we'll see. I mean, a collaboration is something that is definitely on my mind. But let's see what we're able to crack. My favorite Chelsea player right now. I mean, Mount has been absolutely crazy. Whenever I've seen him, I think I mean I've really liked watching him this season. I mean, he's been instrumental in whatever Chelsea has achieved. So I mean, I've definitely the best player for me. I think a close second could be James. I mean, whenever he's played, and then he's played in that right wing back role, I think he's done really well. And he's also a player who's very interesting to watch, right? I mean, I would have thought the same about Lukaku, for example, but he had a terrible. I mean, he had a terrible season this time around. So maybe that's gonna change next season. Maybe he leaves next season. I mean, what's to say that he doesn't leave Chelsea, right? What do you guys think? Is he gonna stay in the Prem? Is he gonna stay with Chelsea? I mean, of course, if he stays in the Premier League, he's gonna stay with Chelsea. But yeah, I mean, it's been a tough season for him. So let's see. Tactically, I'd like to video on how player positions could involve. I mean, yeah, that could be really really interesting. That's a great idea. I mean, we can do something around that. I mean, that's definitely something that I'm gonna do, an analysis of just players from the promoted teams. I think we will something similar to what we did on Instagram. But I think on an Instagram post, it's very difficult to kind of talk a lot about teams. But I think we'll probably do a video series where we do analysis of all teams, of course, but specific focus could be on these promoted teams, because I don't think so. A lot of people would be aware of certain players. What are the best players to target? What are the teams? What way they play? How's the manager like? How is the environment going to be? So I think there's are a lot of unknowns in terms of the specifically those three promoted teams. So we can definitely include that in the video series. But yeah, I mean there will be a lot of content pre-season, and this will definitely be a part of that. Gotta go. Thanks for joining. Thank you so much. Yeah, see you on the next stream. I don't know when that next stream will be, and what that next stream will be on. But yeah, I mean, I hope that you enjoyed the stream. I hope that you've enjoyed the content, and have a good time. Take a deep dive on each club's tactics, and I can relate that to FPL. I mean, yeah, that is something that we will definitely be doing. We'll be talking about one club. Maybe we'll see if we can do that for one club per video, or maybe we can, club certain clubs together. Maybe do that in one specific video. We'll see, but there'll definitely be analysis on players, analysis on the transfers incoming, analysis on I, I mean, when the FPL game is launched, the prices will also be launched. There will be certain reviews of prices already earlier. So I think we'll also kind of, before we get into the first draft and get into the first template, I think there'll be a lot of analysis in terms of specific teams, specific positions. So yeah, I mean that's definitely going to be on the cards. So yeah, let's see, let's see. In general, I think preseason, these teams, strategies, these players. I mean, I don't think so. A specific video is required in terms of learnings, because I think, I mean, I'm sure everybody or all of you will have your own set of learnings. So maybe not that, but I mean, yeah, I'm just trying to think what else we can do when we talk about FPL as well, right? Of course, we'll be looking at punts, we'll be looking at differentials, we'll be talking about premium assets, and I think a lot will depend on how the prices are, how the positions are. I mean, what kind of players are now forwards in the game. I think a lot will depend on that as well. So that is where that positional play and across different positions, what strategy or what thinking can you start applying to your game. I think that could be really really interesting. Mbappe contract. I've been following that closely, very very closely, because I wanted to put out something in that regard. But I mean, what the hell happened there? Mbappe has been such a smart player in all this while. I mean, he's used Madrid's offer to lure PSG, then he lured PSG's offer to lure Madrid, and then he ended up staying at PSG. I mean, I really, really thought that he will go to Madrid, and I think Madrid have definitely been left, salty. And I'm not sure. I was reading something on Madrid launching an investigation with Mbappe involved. I'm not sure what that was. So if you guys know what that was, do let me know in the chat. But it's been crazy. I mean, they should. I mean, there were so many memes around. Mbappe now running the government. Mbappe now, of course, a lot of people still believe, and I'm not sure how much of that is going to be true. But Mbappe running the club, Mbappe being the captain. This, I mean, there was just so much there. I mean, I just feel it's just. I mean, yes, PSG will try to do whatever they can to keep somebody like an Mbappe who could be the future star. I mean, we talk about all these future players, we talk about all these prospects, who are doing well. I mean, I can't say that Mbappe has not been good, but yeah, I still don't feel, or I still don't believe that PSG will be able to win the Champions League. It's a huge statement already without knowing what's their final squad gonna be for the season. But I mean, yeah, I still somehow see them slipping up somewhere, and first of all, I don't even feel that Pochettino is going to stay. So that's that, and let's see. I doubt they'll win the Champions League before 25. If they can get, I mean, they need a manager like Zidane, right, to manage those many egos, to manage players like a Messi, a Neymar. Of course, Di Maria is leaving now, and Mbappe. God knows if somebody like a Pogba goes there. We don't know. You already have players like Ramos. I mean, there is so much there, right? I mean, I don't think so. Pochettino has that personality or has that in him to control players like them and dictate terms there. So they definitely have to get rid of him and get somebody like a Zidane because he has done something similar with Madrid as well. So he is a manager who will I think who will do well. And if he comes into play, I mean the conversation might just be different, might just change. I mean that's what, right? I mean you don't want players to have such contracts and such perks, and I mean the financial aspect of it is absolutely crazy. Um Neymar is leaving. He has been promised that in the contract. Is that true? I'm not sure. Not sure. I mean, yeah, FPL enforces financial fair play, real life. I mean, I absolutely don't know how they are managing that. How are they managing these kind of signings? These to spend this much money on transfers, to spend this much money on salaries, and get give these players these kind of contracts. I mean, or what PSG did to kind of evade that when they got Messi on board, when they already had so many big signings. Of course, in terms of transfer fees, a lot of them were free transfers, but then again, they still have to invest a lot of money, spend a lot of money when it comes to contracts, salaries, and all that stuff, right? So yeah, I mean, FPL enforces that. If FPL doesn't enforce it, I don't know what's gonna happen with the game. But yeah, I mean, that's that. I mean, they have a lot of money, right? It's the owners, right? I mean, similar to what Man City has also been doing. I mean, their owners definitely have a lot of money, and they've thrown a lot of money. So yeah, and I don't think so. That's definitely going to stop there because imagine the amount of commercials, imagine the amount of value that can be gained, imagine the amount of finances that can be controlled and that can be bought into the club with players like these, right? Of course, it seems like a huge investment. It seems like a lot of money spent, but if they really have to become the Galacticos or the modern Galacticos of football right now, I mean, they have to do that. But yeah, I mean, I stand by the fact that they still have to get somebody else in terms of managing the whole club. I mean, it'll be interesting to see the other transfers also happening. I mean, there are strong rumors about Lewandowski going to Barcelona. I'm not sure if how much of that is true or how much of that is done. We'll check that. But that could happen. Of course, United will definitely be signing a few players. Now, what kind of players are we gonna go for? That's I think also gonna make the summer very interesting. There'll be a few players leaving from the likes of Man City. There'll be a lot of people going from the likes of Man United. So they're selling everything that can be sold, like Barca. I mean, yeah, and see, you can only earn an X amount of money or a certain amount of money from your, you know, from your fans, from tickets, from your sponsorships or from TV rights and all that stuff. And of course, you can also do a lot in that, but then at the end of the day, you still have to kind of identify different avenues of getting that money, right? Because yes, they still want to become a powerhouse or they still want to become a huge force in football, but they still have to be commercially viable and successful to run on a long term, right? Because if you don't spend or if you don't manage finances properly, you probably end up with something like a bar. I mean, I don't think so. A PSG can become a Barcelona. I mean, that's an extreme example, but that's absolutely a possibility. Um, Emirates at yeah, I mean yeah, all corporate names. So there is a lot of money to be spent. There's a lot of money to be earned as well. I mean, and these clubs are absolutely doing it. So yeah, let's see. Great guys, I think I'm a little hungry, so we'll probably call it a night. Thank you so much for joining. People are forgetting Alvarez going to City. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure how much of Alvarez is gonna probably see the games, and maybe he gets a loan move somewhere. Let's see. Let's see. Might not stay at the club, but yeah, I mean, they don't have a recognized striker if Haaland gets injured, right? Especially if Gabriel Jesus moves on, because I personally don't even think Jesus is probably going to play number 9 for most games. So I think it'll be interesting. But yeah, I think that'll be all for today and tonight. Thank you so much for joining again. We will do a catch up sometime very soon. Maybe when some we have some signings, or maybe we'll definitely think of doing a weekly catch up, at least in terms of what's happening with everybody, and what are you guys doing? What am I doing? I think it'll be interesting. Of course, there'll be transfer playlists, a lot of content that'll be coming out. I'll be posting a lot of stuff on Instagram as well. So make sure you get tuned in. Of course, this is a time to enjoy the content, enjoy the football, and not be stressed about it. Of course, we've had a lot of stress in recent times. But yeah, I hope you've had a good season and a great season. I hope you've enjoyed all the content. I hope you've enjoyed spending a little bit of time of yours with me week on week, every week. And of course, we'll continue to do that as well in the future. And I just hope we definitely get better. But yeah, that'll be all. It's me signing off for the FPL 2021-22 season. Looking forward to a 22-23 season. Lots to come. And thank you so much again. Thank you, Savio. We'll catch up with you absolutely later in the coming streams. Thank you so much. Anything. I mean, yeah. Good night to you as well. Thanks, Shayan. I know you got here a little late, but yeah, I was happy that we were able to just catch up for some time. Thank you so much again, Brian. Take care. Take care, guys. Have a good time. Enjoy your football. Enjoy your time. Keep smiling. Keep safe. Do take care. Good care of yourself. And I will see you in Sainers next time. Bye bye.